Good morning, everybody. I think we're here. Few difficulties signing in. We'll just wait for people to jump over from the other video. Good morning to B Church. Great to be together. Good morning to everybody else joining us as well. We're very happy to adopt you this morning. So I'll just get the thumbs up. Are we on? Everyone happy? Good. Let's make a start. We are going to look at that passage that Pip just read to us. It's number 6 of the churches in Revelation, and we're in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is another one of these big affluent areas that we've been talking about, these major cities. It had fertile ground for growing things, so it was very rich. It had a big wine trade, apparently. Like these cities and areas we've been looking at, they were heavily influenced by Roman rule and religion. And like most of these cities, again, they had a large Jewish population. Unlike Sardis last week, though, or more like Smyrna a couple of weeks back, this caused the church big problems. It was a church that was marginalized, a church that was suffering. It seems the suffering that had led to Polycarp's martyrdom over in Smyrna was felt here too. This church was hard pressed on both sides. And like in Smyrna, Jesus has no condemnation for this church. Like we said at Smyrna, that's not because they're the perfect church, but because they are hard pressed and struggling. They're described as having little power, little influence. They are physically poor, mocked and rejected by society, struggling day to day, let alone facing ongoing persecution. And Jesus comes to them. He comes to pick them up, to encourage them, to tell them to keep going. Look at how Jesus Christ is described in these passages. The Holy One, the True One. Would this have been an encouragement to the church? I think it would have. God is holy. We've just sang, God is holy, separate, completely pure and perfect in every way. And often we think of this in the negative because we're not holy. And we'll get to that bit. But the fact that God is holy is a reason for us to love him and worship him. In Isaiah chapter 6, Isaiah sees a vision of God, a picture of him on his throne and all the angels worshiping him. And what do they say? Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory. It's a wonderful picture of the sovereign, eternal reign of God. The train of his robe fills the temple. It's a picture of extravagance, of an overwhelming never-endingness, the fullness of God's presence as it fills the temple. Unlike anything we could imagine. And it's God. And the angels worship him for his holiness, his complete difference to us, his perfection and his purity. The Holy One and the True One, not one who tells the truth, but is truth himself. Do people want truth in life? The boys and I have been doing a bit of philosophy this week, and that's one of the questions we've asked. Do people want truth? What if there was a machine that you could plug into and only experience positive experiences? Would people want that, even if they knew it wasn't true? It's like in those movies, I won't say their name in case I get kicked off here, but where people are plugged into an augmented reality. And it asks the question, is ignorance bliss, or do you want to know the truth? Would you take, let's call it, the ruby capsule or the sapphire tablet? Would you want to know the truth? And the answer through the ages is yes. People do want to know the truth. And here is the true one, Jesus Christ. And this is an encouragement to this church who have been lied to and lied about, who have been marginalized and persecuted in the name of power, in the name of religion, and in the name of nationalism. The one who comes to them is true, is truth himself, is holy, is completely different to everyone around them, who is pure and perfect and worthy for them to stand for. And it should be an encouragement to us too, in strange and uncertain times, in times when we hear conflicting truths. The one who holds us and holds the future is the true one. He is holy. He is unlike anyone else we could ever meet or imagine. He's not influenced by power, by reputation. He's not in it for self-gain. He is holy and true, and therefore he is worthy of our trust at this time. But he is also worthy of our worship. Of course, there is that negative side of the holiness of God that we talked about for the church in Philadelphia and for us, that God is holy and we are not. God is pure and perfect, and they and we are sinful. Then how can we come before this wonderful, holy God? It is a problem. Or it would be a problem if it wasn't for the other description of Jesus Christ. He is also the one who has the key of David. This imagery is lifted directly from Isaiah chapter 22. You can go and look there yourself later. But basically here God is talking to the office of key bearer, to the city or household of David, to the one who has the decision who comes in or not. And here Jesus is the one who holds the key, not to the household, but to the kingdom, because of his sacrifice, his death and his resurrection, because he has made peace between us and God, because he took my sin upon himself, and he now presents me before the Father as spotless. Because he opened the way to the Father, and what he opens, no one will shut. Jesus is the holy, true one, but he is also the one who has made a way for us to come, and he is the one who secures our eternal future. And this is a blessing to the church in Philadelphia, but a blessing to the church today too. So what is Jesus' message to this church and to us this morning? Firstly, he has put an open door in front of them. What does this mean? It could just be a continuation of this description of Jesus Christ, a reassurance to this struggling church that their eternity is secured. They are marginalized. They've had the door of the synagogue slammed shut to them by the Jewish people. But Jesus welcomes them to an eternity that cannot be closed on them, that no one can take away. But there's also another meaning for open door in Scripture. We hear it a lot. Paul in Colossians 4:3 asks the church to pray that God may open a door for us to the word. In 1 Corinthians 16:9, Paul says he will stay in Ephesus. Why? Because a wide door for effective work has been opened to him, to me. Perhaps Jesus is also saying to this church that he has set before them an open door, an opportunity for them to stand for him and proclaim his gospel. Even in their little power, Jesus gives them an opportunity for their lampstand to shine for him. One writer said, Christ holds the key to earthly opportunity as well as to heavenly glory. You see, the challenge for the church in Philadelphia and for us today is that in the face of hardships, it's easy to look internally. It's easy to slip into survival mode. But actually, in these times, Jesus gives us opportunity to stand for him, to let our lampstand shine. For us, at this moment, ironically, our open door might be a closed one. While our doors are closed, there is still an opportunity to stand for Jesus Christ, to be a witness by continuing to trust whilst everyone else panics, to show the love of Jesus to others when others are concerned with self, and to have some answers to hard questions which will come at the end of this. An open door to stand for Jesus Christ in tough times. Secondly, he also tells the church in Philadelphia that he will keep them from the hour of trial that is coming on the world. What on earth does this mean? I told you at the start of this series of Revelation that we weren't going to go near the different interpretations of the millennium. We will have to in future series in Revelation, but I said in this one we were going to stay clear. But obviously a verse like this will be key for those who hold to a belief that God will remove his people from suffering in a rapture experience, from a elongated time of trial. For those who don't hold this view, they say that this verse talks about God's provision for his people during these times of trial and hardship. So is it that they will be kept from undergoing trial, or will God keep them right through the trial? Well, you won't get me to commit today on that one. All I will say is that the Greek text allows for both interpretations, and so does our knowledge of God. We thought 2 weeks ago that in Israel's history, there were times when God prevented his people from suffering. Like in Egypt, when all was going on around the Israelites, God kept them from the suffering. But there was also time in their history when God kept them through the suffering, through the wilderness, through the trials. The message to the church is this, that God saves his people, whether that is through protection or through provision. He saves his people. And of course, he saves them into eternity, which is the final thing that Jesus says to the church here. The reward here is to the one who conquers, to be made a pillar in the temple of God. Never shall he go out of it, and written on him the name of God and the name of the city of God, the New Jerusalem. To understand this, we need to understand Philadelphia a little more. I said its wealth came from fertile ground which it enjoyed. What it did not enjoy was the reason it was fertile, that it was volcanic. And because of this, the threat of danger, of volcano, of earthquake was ever present. And the city had been devastated by one such earthquake previously. During this time, the Roman Emperor Tiberius had been generous in helping them rebuild the city. He'd given them relief from paying taxes to Rome for an extended period. And because of this, the leaders decided to honor the emperor by renaming the city. They called it Neo-Caesarea, the new Caesarea. But this name didn't stick. Here's an example I thought I would never give, but Cardiff City Football Club a few years ago got a new owner, an Asian owner. The football team are called the Bluebirds and have historically played in a blue kit. But because red is a lucky colour in Asia, the owner changed the kit colour. No one at the top of the club argued because he was the one footing the bill. But the fans revolted. They felt they'd had their history and their identity robbed. So eventually the kit changed back. And here it was similar. The name didn't stick and it was changed back to Philadelphia, but the feel of the city, and particularly the church now, there was this constant feeling of uncertainty. They had no change and they had no devastation. They were always looking over their shoulder to see what trouble was coming next. And here, Jesus says to the one who conquers, you will be a pillar in the house of the Lord, an unmovable pillar, a constant fixed place, permanently in the presence of God. He is telling them that their eternity is secured. It's a big yes to David's request in Psalm 27. One thing I ask of the Lord, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord. Philadelphia, yes, this is what those who endure, those who conquer, are promised. And this new